We're wrapping up our series on advanced care planning today, sharing the lessons we've learned in creating our own advanced care plans. You're connected with the Heart of Hospice. I'm Helen Bauer, here with Jerry Fenter.
Whether you're a family caregiver or an end-of-life professional, we're here to enhance your hospice experience by connecting you with information you can use about end-of-life care.
I feel like we should have some sort of disclaimer.
Why?
There's going to be information here that may not reflect us in the best light, or at least me.
No, I think it's going to be true for both of us. That's for sure. So we had sort of kind of made a commitment to our friends at the Conversation Project that we would do our advanced care plans as part of this series.
Right.
And we started.
It was hard, okay? Can we just say it was so much more difficult? And I think maybe that's one of the lessons learned. We're going to talk about what we've learned from this and the challenges we encountered and the emotional impacts of it. But I think one of the lessons that I have learned is an interesting perspective, because I've always been a little bit judgmental of people who were ill, people with serious illness who didn't have advanced directives. It's not an easy thing to do.
It's not. And so here's the thing, too. You don't have to be seriously ill to need an advanced care plan.
Right.
In fact, let's be honest, many of the major news stories that we have heard about people who were on life support were young people.
Right. And most of them had only given any sort of directive verbally to a family member. Oh, I don't ever want to be this and this. I don't ever want to be kept alive on this. I don't want to have this particular treatment. But other than that, nothing in writing. Those are the cases that, Nancy Cruzan, those are the cases that came to the national attention.
Exactly.
Over these issues.
So you don't have to be older and you don't have to be having a serious illness before you need an advanced care plan. In fact, it's best if you don't wait to do an advanced care plan.
Right.
Tell the people that need to know what it is that you want, what your healthcare wishes are, if you can't speak for yourself.
Listen, I'm healthy and in my mid-50s, fudging on that just a touch. I found it this challenging as somebody, A, who knows the healthcare system, B, who knows end-of-life care, C, knows what advanced care planning is supposed to look like, and D, is perfectly healthy. How difficult it must be for someone who has no healthcare literacy, no experience professionally working in healthcare, and has a serious illness.
That's right. So we really did take to heart our commitment to do our own advanced care plans. So you did try to have a conversation or conversations with your children.
Yes, the jokers, as I like to call them. The jokers. Yeah. So I have a daughter who works she's a first responder, and then I have another daughter who's a teacher. And their responses were a little bit surprising. Mm-hmm. And I won't tell you which one did what.
They know.
They know. You know who you are. One of them, when I tried to talk about it with her one-on-one, she's like, that's never going to happen. We don't need to talk about that. That's not going to happen for a really, really, really long time. Complete brick wall.
Yeah, denial.
Yeah. And it's not that she doesn't care about me, but it was difficult to have the conversation.
She just didn't want to go there.
She didn't.
Okay, and the other one?
I think she would pull the plug this afternoon if that's what needed to happen. But no, I'm not sure she would. She's first responder, but she's very tenderhearted when it comes to family. And I think that would be a challenge. But they both have very active lives. And of course, we don't live in the same town or the same household. So that was a challenge to actually find time where we could all sit down and connect.
Right. I get it. So I went into the Conversation Project website and I downloaded their Conversation Starter Guide. I thought, okay, that's the best place for me to start.
Right.
I went in and I completed that Conversation Starter Guide. So I got started on it. I did all that and went through that. And then the next step is, of course, I need to have the conversation with the people who need to know. It's never happened. Not that I didn't try to make it happen. There were times when I knew the family was going to be together, and I thought, okay, this is the opportunity for me to do that. Wrong. It was not the right time. All the family was together. And when I say all, I'm talking about all my kids. I have 5 children and all the grandkids.
So it's mass
I have
chaos.
almost 12 grandkids. There is no way I'm going to have a serious conversation with anybody in a setting like that. What I realized, and this is a lesson that I've learned through this, you need to set a time and a place to have those conversations. You can't just assume that they're going to happen. They're not just going to automatically materialize. You have to make it happen. You have to be proactive in setting those occasions to have those conversations. And it's not enough to put it in writing and hand it to the person, or not hand it to them at all, but put it in some file or
Right.
a lockbox in a bank.
With
Don't
no
do that.
discussion.
With no discussion. Don't do that. You've had the experience yourself of having somebody put you down as their proxy and never talking to you about it.
Right. And I actually had that paperwork in my hand, but it was inside a packet with a will and all these other things. And of course, the person was completely healthy at the time.
Right.
So I didn't open up and look all that. I put it in a fire-safe box and set it aside.
There you go.
Yeah. So I have to take some responsibility for that. It's an interesting perspective because my mom's older. She's almost 90. And there are times she's wanted to talk with us. And I think because of what I do for a living, I have been receptive to having those conversations with her. But she's been purposeful about saying, okay, I want the 3 of you here, no spouses, no children, no grandchildren. I want you here so I can talk with you.
That's good.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been easier. But again, she's been very intentional. So you have to create those occasions. So those are some of the challenges. Let's talk about the emotional impacts of this planning, because it affected me in a way I did not expect.
I have to say it was the same for me. So talk about yours first.
No, you talk about yours first.
Okay. I have been delaying writing my advanced care plans simply because of the emotional impact that it had on me every time I thought about it, because it made me realize that I'm getting older. I'm in my 60s now. I should have an advanced care plan. It needs to be there. But when I started thinking about creating this advanced care plan, something about it made me realize my mortality, and I didn't want to face it. I wanted to be in denial. I'm healthy, and I don't want to think about not being healthy. And so it was really challenging for me from that emotional perspective. So what about you?
For me, it wasn't so much the getting older. I'm in my 50s, like I said. It was more when I started thinking about who would speak for me and their personalities and what they knew. First of all, as a healthcare provider, it scares me to death that none of these people know their way around the healthcare industry. Heaven help them, right? That's so difficult. I'm the one that everybody calls and says, hey, the hospital wants to do this, the doctor wants to do this. My mom will tell me on my insurance, this is what it looks like. Why is it like this? I'm the one that has helped with that kind of stuff over the years. So the thought of having people who might not be well equipped to make my decisions for me, I don't like the sound of that. And then when I realized I was talking to people who were not willing to have those conversations with me, the emotions that came up, I was angry about that. I'm trying to talk with you about something that's very meaningful and personal to me, and you don't want to talk about it. Made me angry. And then I have to say that based on their responses, I thought, you know what? I'm just going to do something completely different that maybe they're not going to like.
Okay.
There was a little bit of resentment there. That's not a good reason to choose, the disposition of your body or how you want to be buried or cremated. I don't think that's a good that's not a good criteria for deciding your advanced care planning.
Right.
So the family dynamics, I guess, is how I would summarize it. The family dynamics influenced my emotions, made me reverse my thinking, made me a little bit overly emotional and sad because I have 2 grandbabies now. And I'm thinking, I want to know them as adults if I can. And I started thinking about that, and that was really sad because these are little babies. These are, not a year old, that kind of thing, little ones. And that was sad for me. The other thing that I had in my head is an expectation of what this whole thing would look like. And I'm concerned about trying to manage all the different possible scenarios and being disappointed that it doesn't do like that.
Right.
Because there's no way to predict how it'll go. So It makes me sad to think that I'm not going to have the quintessential everybody there that is important to me, and the hospice support, and I would have this peaceful, symptom managed experience at end of life, and this beautiful experience for my family, the jokers who may or may not be able to embrace all that. And it made me sad thinking that might not happen. I don't have this unrealistic Michael Landon touched by an angel kind of expectation in my head. I don't have that kind of scenario in my head. But I do have some things that I would like to have that are I would consider very meaningful and beautiful. And it saddens me to think that maybe my caregiving village, my closest family, wouldn't grasp the depth of that. And so there's some sadness wrapped in that for me.
Sure.
Yeah.
One of the things that we talked about with our guests from the Conversation Project was that it's impossible to give an answer to every possible scenario. There's too many scenarios, too many different ways that things could happen.
Right. It's completely unpredictable.
Right. These things are completely unpredictable. So we have to have a broader view of this. If something like this should happen, then this is what my wishes are for that.
Right.
But we can't go through every possible scenario, and it's impossible to do that.
Yeah, you can't plan for every eventuality. It's not real.
No.
You can't even imagine all of them.
Exactly. So through this, there are some lessons that we've learned. In fact, as we have had conversations with other experts, we've come up with a few other lessons that we've learned. So we had a conversation with Steve Leader, Rabbi Steve Leader. He talked to us about ethical wills, which is very interesting. This is how you leave behind a legacy. Mm-hmm. And listen to the episode that we published with Rabbi Steve Leader, and you'll hear him talk about the ethical wills.
We also did an episode on physical and sexual intimacy at end of life with social worker Jill Johnson-Young. Not a topic that's discussed by hospice professionals the way we should.
No.
That is an issue that needs to be addressed at end of life. If you're caring for body, mind, and spirit, that includes physical intimacy, and physical intimacy includes sexual intimacy. I would never have thought to include a discussion of that or any notation of that in an advanced care plan before we talked to Jill about that.
Right.
Yeah.
She explained in the episode where we talked with her, interviewed her, about the reasons for that.
Yes.
And very interesting. So you want to listen to that episode also.
So here's one that I need to fess up to, because I'm pretty tech savvy, and I like my phone. I like my phone and the internet. But Jennifer O'Brien, who is the author of The Hospice Doctor's Widow, who also interviewed with us, has an advanced care plan kit that you can download. So I downloaded that and I started working with it. The first step she has on hers is to create a medical ID on your smartphone. Who knew? I did not know that was there. I was so embarrassed because when I said something to you about it, I'm like, oh, you need to do this. I already did mine.
I did mine already.
Oh, hush. But yeah, And it's super easy. So if you go to Jennifer's website, The Hospice Doctor's Widow, her kit that you can download has specific instructions on how to do it step by step. So it's super easy to do. But then when medical personnel pick up your phone, there's a way they can see your emergency contacts in your phone.
Right. And just some of the basics about you, for instance, your blood type and things like that.
Right, right. So that's a good thing to have a look at too. Very important.
Right. So in our conversations with our guests from the Conversation Project, we talked about the spiritual communities and how faith communities can be very instrumental in helping their congregants, their members, to take advantage of making an advanced care plan. So that was very helpful, and she gave some excellent insights into that.
So much support inside a faith community with others who have the same belief systems, want the same rituals, the same special things to happen in alignment with your faith beliefs. So to be having those conversations with people who share the same spiritual beliefs, I think that has so much value.
So we also talked with Patty Webster about community groups. And this, again, is where community really does make a difference. Doing it on your own is difficult, but sitting down with a group of people who are all doing it together helps.
There's some unity and support there.
Absolutely. So it may be you, if you're listening to this today, feel empowered and want to begin something like this. Here's your opportunity. Get the Conversation Project pulled up on your web browser and find out how they can help you, because they have all this information put together and it's free. You can download it for free.
And a community group, which I got schooled. It was helpful to hear this from Patty. A community group can be anything. It could be your bridge club. It could be your book club. You know, however you define a community group, it could be your fitness class. But yeah, go in there. If you feel this is something you want to champion, go get them. Go get it started.
Yes. And Kate DiBartolo talked with us about the individual advanced care planning conversations, and so how that can be helpful, and how the Conversation Project is helpful about this. They have so many guides and workbooks that they offer for free on their website. So by all means, take advantage of those too.
So on the Conversation Project website, I'm looking at it, so many free resources and free downloads, how to choose a healthcare proxy, how to be a healthcare proxy. Right? How to talk with your healthcare team. And then they have a special workbook called What Matters to Me, and it's for someone who is experiencing a serious illness. Just some amazing resources in different languages. There's just a lot there, so useful, and we were so grateful to be able to partner with them.
So some of our special friends are John and Michelle Braddock from My Life and Wishes. My Life and Wishes is a internet-based, cloud-based resource for being able to compile all of these different pieces of your life, including all those passwords that you have for, your bank, your Facebook page,
your Netflix account.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Your Amazon account.
That's important. It's important to know.
Don't point at me, Jerry Finter.
Okay, sorry.
Point at yourself for that one.
So we would encourage you to check that out as well. mylifeandwishes.com, and they can help you to build and compile all this information that you need.
And the lesson that we learned about the cloud-based services, cloud-based websites is to be able to have access to it for yourself, but also to have secure access for someone who might be making your healthcare decisions, being designated as your healthcare proxy. And it becomes a place to store all of these things. You can even scan certain documents in, which is super convenient if you need to pull something up and you're out and about. With the number of remote caregivers that we have these days, caregivers that live at a distance, I think that's super important. So we utilized all of these tools in one form or another when we were having our advanced care plan conversations. So we want to thank all of these professionals and the information and the wisdom that they shared with us.
Thanks for listening to The Heart of Hospice. I'm Jerry Finter here with Helen Bauer. Because we know your hospice journey is 24/7, you can always find us at theheartofhospice.com. Subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening, and please leave a rating or a review.
To connect with us, just send us an email to host@theheartofhospice.com. You can also find us on social media. And remember, no matter who you are or where you are in your hospice journey, you are the heart of hospice.